Humans love stories.
Lovely.
I like a story at night time. Do you do bedtime stories?
Georgie.
Do you do bedtime stories?
We could do bedtime stories.
Poppy, would you like to hear a story?
Yeah.
What do you know any stories, Chris?
I don't.
Stories take many forms, the most obvious being literature. They can range from vague poetry to detailed epics like the Odyssey and the Epic of Gilgamesh. Books have been printed since around 1450. They can keep a person occupied for hours, and classics like The Great Gatsby and To Kill a Mockingbird are read in schools everywhere. Storytelling is also seen in less apparent forms, such as artwork and film. The most monumental of all stories is one that's often overlooked. It's the story of humanity, history itself. Movies, books, and music came about with their respective inventions, but there is evidence that humans have been telling stories since we've been able to speak. In 1944, psychologists Fritz Heider and Marianne Simmel conducted an experiment in which they showed 114 subjects of film in which shapes are moving across the screen. They were asked to take the film and explain what was happening. However, only 3 people described the video as just shapes moving. All the rest composed elaborate stories involving the 2 triangles in the circle, with protagonist, romance, and peril. So, storytelling comes as naturally to people as language does. But why do we tell stories? Though history is often seen and used as a word to describe the past, the timeline of history itself is minuscule in comparison to the amount of time humans have been on Earth for. This actually defines history as humanity's story, which is only so long as we've been able to record it. So one reason we might tell stories is to preserve the legacy of certain events and people. And legacy has always been important. Ancient Egyptians believed in a second death, one when you physically died, the second when your name was spoken for the last time. Without the continuation of the telling of people's stories, history itself would not exist. Progress could not be recorded, and the things that people did would disappear with themselves, making accomplishment have significantly less importance. If we didn't tell Gandhi's story, no one would remember who he was, and no one would be able to learn from it. However, as large a part of storytelling legacy is, very few people have one. Out of 107,602,707,791 people we have estimated to have ever lived on Earth, we only remember a few. And many more stories without specific places or people have been told. Stories are like the mathematics of the intangible. Math was invented to solve physical problems to make progress, like how to divide land and exchange goods. No such equations exist for moral questions. Stories are the most comprehensible way that we process information. They are influential because of how they use empathy to show someone a problem. In a study conducted by psychologist Dan Johnson, it was shown that people who read stories are more empathetic. By feeling for someone else through hearing their story, people can make judgments about their own decisions. So storytelling is a way of spreading and exploring complex ideas to other people. It uses empathy as a form of rationalization. People can look at something that happened and analyze it to make their own decisions. So in this way, it's how we solve moral problems in order to make progress. Holy texts use stories to guide people in a certain moral direction. Aesop's fables and Grimm's fairy tales provide underlying ideas that people can learn from, and stories such as these are still told to this day. Stories also explore another abstract concept, the human psyche. We try to make sense of human emotion through stories. We explore different emotions through different story types. In love stories like Pride and Prejudice or the story of Persephone and Hades, people look at the nature of romance. The quest story type unravels heroism and bravery. Tragedy evaluates the pattern of a downward spiral of events. Philosopher Martha Nussbaum, author of Upheavals of Thought, The Intelligence of Emotions, suggests that all forms of storytelling are expressions of the stories we tell about ourselves in our minds. The ongoing dialogue in our heads naturally creates a narrative that has a story structure. Because of this, the emotions we have are expressed in the stories we tell. Storytelling helps us better understand these emotions because we're able to empathize with the storyteller. Storytelling is a vital part of human nature. It helps us remember the past as well as helping make sense of abstract ideas. Stories are seen everywhere in human culture, part of entertainment to regular conversation. Many stories have remained for thousands of years, and though humans will continue to evolve, our stories will remain immortal.